Let's listen in, Lilian. I'll come back to you.
Molo Odinga, in the last, I invite Senator Johnson Muthama to brief you on what we've discussed and what we've agreed on the way forward.
Thank you very much, Governor Kidero. As you may be aware, and Kenyans, wherever they are, this back to electing and from the ruling that was given and the issues we had raised, it was clear that Raila's votes as a presidential candidate were stolen, manipulated, and for that reason Uhuru was disqualified as having been elected as the president of Kenya. The Supreme Court ruled that the election should be held within 60 days. But what we have noticed now, and what Kenyans have noticed, is that IEBC, without consulting the stakeholders, that means Jubilee and NASA, they went ahead to declare 17th of October as the day that the runoff should be held. So we met this morning as Nairobi leaders in Nairobi under the chairmanship of Dero, and I myself as a representative of the presidential team, campaign team, to chart the way forward. So we are here to make sure that this time all round, and these are the plans that we have laid down. One, we must protect our presidential candidate votes. We have laid down our strategies, which I cannot give them to you because that's our secret weapon. But all round, the day the election will be held, there will be no chance for Jubilee, together with a Kifaranga or computer, they will manage to steal or mess up with the vote. The other thing that we have agreed upon is all these elected members here. In their constituencies, they are going to coordinate the campaign together with the MCS who has been elected there, and the women representative here, Esther Passaris. And this is going to be a campaign like that has never been seen before. And this time around, Raila Amolo Odinga must get over 1.2 million votes, because actually that is what he received and that is what was stolen. If you remember very well, Philomena Mwilu, the deputy CJ, aliuliza swali moja: ukienda kwa polling station na unapewa karatasi 6 za kupiga kura, na kura inaweza kuonekana ni moja tu ya rais, zile zingine 5 zimeenda wapi? Sasa ile mambo tumekubaliana hapa ni kwamba tutaangalia kwamba hakuna kura hata moja inaenda nje. So you are going to watch and witness that the campaign that is going to be staged in Nairobi, how serious it's going to be. And those are the comments we have for now.
I think just to finalize this, Kenyans want justice. Nairobians want justice. And we can only have peace if there is justice. And what the Supreme Court did by delivering justice will ensure that we have peace in Kenya. And it's the responsibility of every Kenyan, and it is the responsibility of Nairobians to contribute towards this everlasting peace by choosing the leader who will bring a difference, who will add value, and that person is none other than Raila Odinga. They gave it to him on the 8th, and we want them to give it to him the way they gave him on the 8th, on the 17th, or whichever date will be agreed on as the day of the rerun. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all.
With regards to this campaign,
I think Mr. Mudama just talked about that we don't need to tell you what to do. And even if there's no agents, that's no license to steal.
Yes. Yes.
You steal because there's no agents. Your conscience should prick you.
But who told you? Who told you that we do not have agents? We had agents, but they were mistreated. They were chased away. They were locked out. So anybody with the perception that we did not have agents in every police station, that is wrong. It is the same as when Uhuru says, I want NASA and Raila to be ready to accept the verdict of the court, having in mind that with the money he's having in his pocket, he's going to bribe and the verdict will be in his favor. When it came out to be against him, is the same person who runs to call the CJ and his team Wakora. Even Ruto has a capacity to call the CJ of the Republic of Kenya with the other judges Wakora. But if you walk in the streets of Nairobi having Ruto on the right side and Maranga on the left side, and you meet two people who have never seen them and ask them between the two is Mkora here, you know what the person they pointed. It is the same Uhuru who is a beneficiary of the judicial system all over the world. The ICC is through the judges that same Uhuru and the root of free. But today, because the funding is not favoring them, they have to criticize them. It is the same judicial system that declared them winners in 2013. And that time, the judicial system was acceptable. But this time, because they were being found to be professional thieves, they are the ones now to say, how an Wakora. Excuse me. Kenyans, let us learn how to stand for the truth. The truth is that we had agents and they were locked out by the same people. In the judicial system, Wakoras.
So what will you do to make sure that this time around they are not locked out? And Kidero, will you be going to court to challenge Sonko's?
Before Kidero, we have said we sit down now to stop them from messing up with our faults. Is that not enough?
Perhaps Mtama could tell us. Say that NASA is going to lead campaign tonight. Perhaps it's going to be replicated in other parts of the country.
It is going to be replicated in the other part of the country.
I think, Muridi, you want me to answer?
Yes.
Justice will be done. Thank you.
Well, Nairobi NASA leaders there seem to have concluded their meeting. Just a quick Q&A session there with members of the press led by former Nairobi Governor Dr. Evans Kidero and Honorable Mudama answering questions there about election preparedness by NASA, some of the issues experienced in the previous election and the way forward. Now, we need to wrap up the discussion in studio. We've been talking IBC matters. Thanks to everyone who's been talking to us on 22422. I'll give each of my panelists exactly 1 minute. I will enforce it just to give their closing statements. I'll start with you, Joy.
I'd just like to remind the political parties as well as the IEBC that all this exercise is not a game between them. It's in the interest of Kenyans.
Okay.
And so whatever they're doing, they have to uphold the best interest of the Kenyans at heart. It is not a contest. It is not a beauty pageant. It's actually affecting the lives of Kenyans. And given the history of our country regarding the tension around elections, I'm hoping that lessons learned from 2017 will ensure that 2022 going forward, elections will not be a do-all, die-all sort of feud, but we'll get to a place where we can conduct elections as civilized individuals. I'm looking forward to a time when we'll not even need an IEBC. You will go to your local home office, to your chief. That we've gotten to a place where we are so comfortable and we're people of integrity that even if we go to vote in your local chief's office or your DO's office,
it can be
it would be a credible process. So looking forward, let the political parties not forget. It is an interest. So when we hear the children won't die, we'll hear, let's forget about the political class and the IEBC exonerating themselves. Let's think about the 40 million Kenyans who need a decision. And let's uphold the fidelity of the law as well as the process that this thing comes to an end.
Thank you, Joy, so much for that. Senator Kangata?
A politician wins an election through campaigning. We should just ask ourselves, between NASA and Jubilee, who has been campaigning? Simply, these guys called NASAs, they have never been campaigning. And by the way, it is an objective question. There is a schedule that is usually presented to the IBC where you detail how many meetings you are going to address. Take out that schedule, compare what we presented, compare what these other guys presented, look who executed that campaign schedule. We put effort.
I thought you were going to be talking about NASA, about IBC, Senator.
No. It's important because the bottom line is about winning. So therefore, you may talk about IBC or whatever, but the bottom line is who has been campaigning. And to me, from where I sit as a simple voter, I would imagine you reap what you sow. If you don't campaign, you don't win. So these guys have not been campaigning. They have just been attacking IBC, attacking the process, but they don't campaign. As we campaign, then after we win, our election is invalidated. So unfair.
Okay, I'll have to leave it at that. You've made your point, Lillian.
Yes, we are at crossroads at this time. And notwithstanding the timeline, the 17th of October, the IEBC must prepare for the election just like any other election. And they have to go through the same checklist as they did, as they prepared for the 8th August election. And that's a tough call, and they need to show that they are ready to listen to everybody. We are in this situation where there is push and pull, and they must listen to all the stakeholders. Chebukati, in response, brought in Article 249. Article 249 spells out the principles that guide constitutional commissions and independent offices in terms of their discharge of their mandate. And it is clear, one of the main principles is that the commissions and independent offices shall protect the sovereignty of the people of Kenya, and that is where the fidelity of the commission will lie. So it is a tough call for now, and the country must support them to deliver.
Okay, thank you for that. Honorable Amalo.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to, as usual, educate my brother here. In terms of correlation and regression analysis, there's no positive correlation or a study scientific which has been done to show that if you campaign the highest number of times, you are going to have the highest votes. It can be a negative correlation. And lastly, I want to say that we must put Kenya first, and we should leave IBC to be independent. This is particularly to our colleagues Jubilee, to stop interfering with the work of IBC. They are independent, and I'm requesting the IBC to sit on a consultative table in terms of inclusiveness to discuss with NASA and Jubilee on the way forward. I thank you, but meanwhile we tell the Kenyans, please remain peaceful so that we elect Raila Amolo Odinga.
Honorable Amalo, thank you so much. I have to stop you there. That's how we wrap up this broadcast. Politicians will never skip a moment to campaign, even on a show where we're supposed to be talking about issues, but we leave it at that. Well, it's not just Kenya that's going through a whole electoral process. Angola and Togo as well have been going through some unique circumstances. Let's start by taking a look at Angola. Their ruling party, the MPLA party, won the general election. Definitive results have shown, garnering 61.07% of the votes, the Electoral Commission said yesterday. The results mean that João Lourenço of the People's Movement for the Liberation of Angola will be the next president of Angola, replacing José Eduardo dos Santos, who governed the country for the past 38 years. The main opposition, National Union for the Total Independence of Angola, took 26.67%, with the smaller opposition party, CASAC, winning 9.44%. Well, let's now take a look at what's happening in Togo. Their opposition called yesterday for the immediate resignation of President Faure Gnassingbe, the current head of a half-century-old political dynasty, rejecting a government's move to introduce term limits as protesters gained momentum. Tens of thousands of protesters clad in red, orange and pink The colors of Togo's opposition parties marched through the streets of the capital, Lome, as security forces looked on. Some carried banners bearing slogans including Free Togo and Faure Resign. Togo's cabinet on Tuesday adopted a draft bill to bring back the term limits, the government announced in a statement. But the decision did little to satisfy an increasingly rejuvenated opposition. Nassing Bey has ruled the West African nation since his father died in 2005 after 38 years in power. The late President Nassing Bey Eyadema passed a law in 1992 limiting the president to 2 terms in power, only to scrap it a decade later. Togo, which aspires to become an African Dubai and host the headquarters of Pan-African leader Ecobank and other major firms, has a history of repression. Meanwhile, further afield, Hurricane Irma left a trail of absolute devastation as it tore across the tiny Caribbean island of Barbuda yesterday with 295 kilometers per hour winds, destroying houses, snapping trees, and killing at least 1 person. Gaston Brown, the Prime Minister of the 2-island nation of Antigua and Barbuda, described the island as barely habitable after the powerful Category 5 storm struck early on Wednesday. Describing the scene as an absolute devastation, he said the storm, which also snapped a telecom's tower, had caused estimated damage of about $150 million. Lying a little over 400 kilometers east of Puerto Rico, Barbuda has a population of 1,800 and is one of the Caribbean's quietest getaways for tourists coming to enjoy its seas and coral reefs. You can see some of that footage after the hurricane had passed through the island. And finally, in our international wrap, Pope Francis arrived in Colombia yesterday with a message of unity for a nation deeply divided by a peace deal that ended a 5-decade war with Marxist FARC rebels, but left many victims of the bloodshed wary of the national healing process. Anger over the accord has not dampened enthusiasm for the Pope's visit. Throngs lined up all day to see the Pope mobile pass by. Queues stretched around the cathedral in Bogota as residents sought passes for his events, and street vendors sold T-shirts, baseball caps, and posters carrying Francis' image. Children in costume greeted the Pope with traditional dancing as he stood chatting with Santos and the First Lady Maria Clemencia on the red carpet at Bogota's Satam Military Air Base. Well, time now for a short break, but when we return, we'll be talking about doing business in our political year, the opportunities and challenges. And someone had actually asked a question here, which I can read just before we take the break here. Let me see if I can trace it for you shortly. Yes, someone here, you sought to answer our question when we were asking as an SME owner, what challenges have you been facing? Godfrey Okonda says, an SME youth from Western Kenya. Business in my company has had sharp decrease since mid-year. Competition is too high and banks are avoiding funding younger businesses, and still the government has given us, I don't understand that, but he says it's a disappointment to young traders. Geoffrey, thank you so much for your question. Talk to us as well. What have been your experiences in terms of doing business in a year like this one with so much happening on the political front? I'll have various guests in studio on the other side of the break to discuss this. You're watching Citizen Extra live on Citizen TV. We'll be right back.